What's going on? Welcome back to your weekly Roto Heat Fantasy Inferno, focusing on redraft as we always do. A little bit of a shakeup this week. Apologize for the delay, a little technical difficulties. Obviously, Shane's trying to get himself some more light over there at the in-laws. Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, we call it here in Canada. Where obviously I already had my Thanksgiving a few weeks ago. We don't get any fun on our Thanksgiving like you do in the motherland there, where you're 3 games of football, that kind of thing. Shane, how you doing? How's the travel?
Dude, I'm good. Travel was actually not that bad. We left Sunday morning really early, and because of that, we were able to make it through Atlanta. Smooth sailing, and that is how I try and plan my trips. The smoother we can make Atlanta, the better.
Nice. Yeah, you left a little early, hey? So good to go, all settled.
Oh yeah,
Ready to watch some football tomorrow?
absolutely.
Nice, good to hear. Yeah, we're doing some heat checks on the season. We're week 12, getting close to the fantasy playoffs, down to the nitty gritty. It's time to get going. It's time to put up or shut up. So we're gonna talk about that for a second here. There's a couple things I want to do. Number one, I'm gonna take a lap. I'm gonna take a victory lap from last week. I hope everybody that was in the comments that was hating on my Najee Harris take, or just paying attention to the episode. I hope there's some people in the chats here this week, because let's go through it. Jimmy G was a recommendation last week. What do you do? Best week of his fantasy season so far by quite a bit. So pat myself the back on that one. Najee Harris, running back. What did he do last week? Everyone was hating on it. Leone was hating on it. I had to call him out in the Roto Heat Discord over there.
Yeah, you
hating
did.
on it. Najee Harris, best week of the season. Hey, pat on the back. Wide receivers, who we talk about? Oh, Donovan Peoples-Jones. What was that? Obviously, we didn't know it was going to get moved to Detroit. I thought he'd have an off week in Buffalo. Moved to Detroit. What happens? Oh, best week of the season. Go ahead, pat yourself on the back there, Cody. I'm taking a lap. I'm taking a lap. Yeah, nailed it. It was good. It was a good week for me. There was one thing we were wrong on, though. Michael Gallup and Trey Burks for a kicker. We both said Trey Burks.
Yeah,
we kind of both dropped the ball on that one, but
that's all right.
You can't
I
nail them
don't
all.
think anyone could really have expected that. It was his first game back from injury, and he balled out. I'm happy to finally see it, because I think he's going to be great for the NFL long term, but he's been hurt this year.
Yeah, he was my wide receiver 1 coming into this season. I'll say it. I still had him at wide receiver 1. Drake London was number 2 for me. So I believe in Trey Burks for sure. But yeah, you're right. I don't think anyone could have quite expected, 7 catches, 100+ yards, and kind of a breakout game. But either way, yeah, it was a good week. It was a good week last week for us. I thought we nailed those trade targets, and hopefully they continue to go the way that we were talking about in the show last week. So just wanted to take a lap, pat myself on the back, and then let's move on here. So let's start it out. Yeah, we're going to heat check some of these guys. If they're trending up, trending down, what's going on with some of these situations. I didn't have a banner made for it. I just wanted to touch on the New York Jets and Zach Wilson, especially, just quickly. Obviously, pretty big news. Get your 2 cents quickly, Shane, or maybe I'll start it off because I kind of hit you with it. Yeah, the man, just Zach Wilson in general. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about him. You know how much I hate Zach Wilson. I just do not like him as a player. I would have had him ranked. I didn't do my rankings at the during that draft. I wasn't at that point in my fantasy analyst wannabe pundit career to release my actual rankings. But I would have had him at quarterback 6 in that year. I had it. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Kyle Trask, and then Zach Wilson is how I would have ranked my quarterbacks that year. I actually did. I had it written down, but I didn't produce it anywhere. I didn't release it. Yeah, but that's how I had my rankings for that year's draft. So yeah, this is just wild. What do you make of it, Shane?
Yeah, he took a step in the right direction today. I did see that he actually apologized to the team, but his complete lack of accountability after after the way that he's played and the fact that the offense last week only had, I think, 77 yards. They only scored 3 points. And he was like, yeah, I had nothing to do with that. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. You got to grow up at some point. And
Justin Fields, who we'll talk about in a minute, goes into his locker room and apologizes to the team, apologizes to the defense for letting the team down, everything like
yeah,
that, after his defense allows 27 points. I
yeah,
tweeted it out like, Zach Wilson, get a clue, man. Like
yeah,
you go in and you say no, we didn't. I didn't let my team down. And Justin Fields is over there, apologizing to the entire team because he couldn't lead a miraculous comeback victory in the fourth
yeah,
quarter after his defense allows 27 friggin' points. And you're like, I'm good.
yeah.
Ridiculous.
No,
So
well, and kind of from a fantasy perspective, I think this actually helps probably Garrett Wilson, potentially Tyler Conklin, Michael Carter, maybe Elijah Moore, maybe Corey Davis going forward. But the big ones for me are Wilson, Carter, and Conklin.
yeah, I agree. He's got nothing to lose. Mike White can go out there and just sling it. He's got
Yeah,
absolutely nothing to lose, everything to gain. Go out there, sling the ball around the rock, or sling the ball around the yard, see what happens. There's nothing to lose from this. He can only gain another week, and we'll see what happens. I mean, Joe
yeah,
Flacco is going to back him up. And we'll see what happens. But I think you're right. Nothing. No, I don't think anything really negative can come out of this, to be honest.
no.
And this is either
Well, and
the
they have to do it too because they're in playoff contention.
Yeah. And how do you go into that locker room and say to guys like CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, how do you go in that locker room and say, yeah, we're just gonna roll out Zach Wilson again next week, boys, after you
Yeah,
just played your asses off, held, it's the Patriots, they're not a juggernaut on offense, but you held them to 3 friggin' points, three
yeah,
points, and your team can't win that game. That's a concern. And there's
yeah,
no way you can go in that locker room and explain to that defense that Zach Wilson, especially after that response, you're going to trot him out again and hope for the best. So I
yeah.
really don't think there was a choice to be made, to be honest with you. But
No.
here we are. And I think this might be the official beginning of the end of Russell Wilson. Russell
Oh.
Wilson, I mean Zach Wilson. But nice little segue there. We're going to kick it off with the actual kind
See
of
what you did
content.
there.
I didn't mean to do it, but there we go. Obviously, I got Russell Wilson on the mind here. We're going to heat check Russell Wilson. What do we got going on here with Russell Wilson? I'm gonna lead this off here. Like, what the hell happened to Russell Wilson? What happened? He never had a losing season before last year. His stats again before last year, and his stats last year didn't hurt these numbers, but if you look at it, averages 37.71, exactly 37.71.8 yards per season, 29.7, basically called 30 touchdowns a season. That's just passing. This isn't including his rushing stats. So he's good for 30 touchdowns a year as a quarterback. Never had a losing season. What the hell happened to Russell Wilson? What is your take on what happened?
Uh, Nathaniel Hackett.
But he
I
wasn't
know he
that
wasn't as
great,
good last year, but
before.
last year he
Yeah.
was hurt, if I remember correctly. He had
And he's still
the
he's
finger.
still 25 touchdowns and
Yeah.
6 picks or
So,
whatever.
I mean, for this year, it's very clear to me that it's Nathaniel Hackett. He had a decent game from a completion percentage and a yardage last week. He just didn't get the touchdowns.
Mhm.
But other than that, all season he's not been startable in weeks. Um, I
He's
think
not
from a
startable at
yeah.
all.
Well, so here's my counter to that. He's got a nice schedule upcoming for an upswing. I'm hoping that he will bounce back. He's got Carolina, Baltimore, Kansas City twice, Arizona, and the Rams. And I think the Rams are the toughest matchup in that.
Mhm.
And even that they haven't been great. But I mean, to answer your question, I think it's Nathaniel Hackett, but at the same time, that doesn't make sense. He's supposed to be this quarterback guru, this offensive genius. He's got at the beginning of the season, he probably had better weapons than he did in Seattle, and they've just pissed it away.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to blame Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not going to say you're exactly wrong on that. He's got 8 total touchdowns in the 10 games, 9 games. He played 9 games. He's got 8 total touchdowns, 7 passing touchdowns. That's
Yeah.
just unacceptable.
Yeah.
I think he's another guy that's lacking awareness right now. It's almost like last year, when he was. I don't know what happened there, but it seems like, to me, my take on it is, it seems like he got some voices in his ears, like maybe a marketer, maybe a
Mhm.
sports psychologist type of a person. I'm not sure, and they're really, really running with things here. I'm sure everybody's seen his commercials, his Subway commercials, his Broncos country. Let's ride. How do you go out there and you lose the way you lose game after game, and then you end press conferences with Broncos country? Let's ride. Who wants to hear that? No Broncos fan wants to hear you
Nobody.
say that, right? He's on the sideline telling his teammates to yell out whether it's a run or a pass on the sideline during the game. And this is an NFL game. This isn't Pop Warner. And who are you? Like, what are you talking about, man? We're it's I'm getting a little heated about Russell Wilson, mostly because I was a staunch like Russell Wilson defender for a long time. He
Yeah,
was
I
he was in
mean,
my top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL for about 10 years, right? Since
yeah.
his basically his second year in the league, he's been a top 3 quarterback for me. And now look at him. It's just, what happened? I don't know. I don't know. My thing is he got some people, some yes men in his ear that
Yeah.
are telling him some absolute nonsense, that he's the greatest player in the world, he's the greatest quarterback in NFL history, or I don't know what they're telling him, but it's got to stop, and he's got to figure it out quick.
Quick.
So, a little rant on Russell Wilson. That was just, I'm just completely flabbergasted by what's going on here with Russell Wilson as a player. But let's move on, unless you got any more to add about Russell. Danger Russ, the Danger Russ sandwich at Subway. Let's move on. Justin Fields. Go ahead, Shane. What do you got about Justin Fields? We're heat checking him.
Yeah, I mean, I kept my notes short and sweet on this one. You have to start Justin Fields for the rest of the season. I don't care what the matchup
If
is.
he's healthy
If he's
and he's
healthy, yeah.
playing. Yeah.
His rushing floor is way too high. And we've seen him just go absolutely berserk from a rushing standpoint, and he's starting to put the passing together.
Dude,
Um,
I think he's what, fifth or sixth in the NFL in rushing right now?
I don't know.
Including in total.
Yeah,
I heard this today. It's either fifth or sixth. I can't remember exactly, but he is in rushing as a quarterback. Insane.
yeah, that's nuts.
Sorry
I'm
to cut you
checking.
off, but
No, you're good.
I had to throw that in
Um,
there.
it's surprising. Yeah, he's fifth,
Fifth
right
in the
behind Nick
league in
Chubb.
rushing. That's nuts.
Yeah. So I mean that right there, like you cannot take him out of the lineup if he's playing. Um, Leone put in the chat. Are you concerned about the shoulder injury? Will he run as much? I think it's too much of a part of his game, and too much for them to continue to have a shot at winning. He's got to keep running. Unfortunately, now maybe he's a little smarter and he'll slide or he'll dip out of bounds a little bit earlier. But I think for him to be fantasy viable, he's got to continue to run, and for the
Yeah.
offense to work.
Yeah, 100%. It's just what he does. He did it in college. He's done it so far in his NFL career. I think they were trying to pull him away from that when Nagy was there,
Yeah,
right? They were trying to, pull him away from taking off and running, and that's just not his game, and it's not going to work for him. And clearly they've figured it out with Eberflus and oh man, the guy from Green Bay. Can't remember his name. New offensive coordinator. He's from Getsy, Luke Getsy.
yep.
They figured out, what he does well and what he can do well. And you're right, Leone. Like, yeah, I agree with that for sure. He can't run the way he's been running. He's taken too many hits.
Yeah,
This isn't college anymore. You got to get down. You got to get out of bed. You got to run like Lamar. Lamar Jackson is the epitome of what you need to do as a running quarterback in the NFL. Run out of bounds, slide, get down, do whatever you need to do. Just don't be getting smashed by
Well,
linebackers,
and
defensive ends.
Lamar, I mean, Lamar is another tier of rusher. Like, it doesn't make sense, like, how shifty he is. I
Hmm.
don't know if Fields is that level of, like, shiftiness per se, but you're 100% right to where you've got to run like that and make sure that you're not getting crushed. Because these guys, like it or not, they're trying to end your life. They are trying to knock you out of the game
Hmm.
and hit you as hard as they can. Because I mean that helps them win the game. Like,
They're not pulling punches, man. That's for damn
yeah,
sure. These are NFL players, and their job is on the line if they get shown up or don't make a play. So they're not pulling punches. They're certainly, they're kind of trying to take your head off a little bit, right? So
yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. He's definitely a set and forget starting quarterback now, as long as he's healthy. I am a little concerned this week. Who are they playing again?
Give me 2 seconds.
Jets. So that's a little concerning. Jets on the road. They got a pretty fast defense with some quality linebackers, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, that can go sideline to sideline. I like their
Yeah.
corners and safeties. So either, he's gotta throw the ball, check it down, get out of bounds, slide. He's got to do all those things. He can't be taking hits, that's for sure.
Throw
So
the ball to damn Chase Claypool too. Like, they traded away a second round pick. This guy has 5 catches for 32 yards in 3 games. That's horrible.
yeah, he's still getting kind of acclimated, right? Plus, I don't. We'll see. We'll see how Claypool works out long term in that offense. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's got to get better as a passer, Justin Fields, before you can rely on a secondary wide receiver in that offense. I think slot and tight end are going to do well, for the
Yep.
rest of the season,
I'm
which
right
is
there with you.
Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. But we'll see what next season looks like with Claypool and Fields. Since you're talking about running a little bit, this is something I want to touch on here. Kyler Murray, we're going to get to. We're heat checking Kyler Murray. You're talking about the running, of Justin Fields and running quarterbacks and how valuable that is. Take a guy like Kyler Murray this year. He had a 100-yard game in week 6. Guess how many
Mhm.
fantasy points he had in that week?
Uh,
Wild
thir
guess.
13.
Yeah, 10.8. And he had 100 rushing yards. Like, that's unacceptable,
Oh god.
from a quarterback, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
barely double-digit points. He had 0 touchdowns, threw for just over 200 yards, but he threw an interception and he lost a fumble. So that's basically like summarizes the season for Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals, and Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff
So
Kingsbury has to get fired this year, right?
yeah, I'm certainly getting there. Like, no one on this team gives a shit. No one on
No.
this team cares. And it shows every time you watch Arizona Cardinals play football. The only 2 people that care on this team, that from my eyes that I can see, is JJ Watt, because he always does, and Buda Baker. Those
Yep.
are the only 2 guys on this team that care when they play, in my opinion. And it
Yeah.
really shows up. I mean, Nuke can do what he does in his sleep. He's just that good
Yeah.
of a wide
That
receiver,
was
in
gonna
my
be my
opinion.
my 3rd one was Nuke.
Yeah, he just is always going to show up and show out. He's just that guy. Nuke Hopkins is that guy. So that's different, kind of different altogether. But other than that, no one cares. And this, to me, you're right. That all comes down to coaching. Like, Cliff Kingsbury is done. You might as well ride him out to the end of the season. I don't know if, actually, you know what? I'd be okay if they let him go and Vance Joseph gets a shot, because Vance Joseph, I really like, especially as a defensive coordinator. I think he could get another shot at being a head coach. I think he did previously. Broncos, maybe, I can't
He was the
remember.
Broncos
He
head coach, yeah.
was it Broncos, yeah. So he got
Yeah.
he got a shot. I think he could get another shot. So you could do that. Fire Kingsbury, Vance Joseph. There you go. See what happens. But yeah, as far as like starting Kyler Murray, are you extremely confident starting Kyler Murray these days?
Absolutely not. I have him in 2 1 QB leagues, and I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Like, he was consensus probably
4, 5,
fifth
6.
quarterback, fifth
Yeah.
or sixth quarterback drafted this year, and now he's, basically borderline unstartable, right?
Yeah.
It's really, really frustrating to see this, but I think
And,
it comes down to preparation with Kyler Murray.
yeah, well, that's funny with, Call of Duty coming out recently. Um, he's got a tough upcoming schedule too. That's what worries me about Murray, but if you can make it through week 1 of the playoffs with him. He's got Tampa, which is a little bit easier, and then you've got Atlanta for championship week.
Yeah, we'll see if he's, what's going on in that whole team at that
Yeah.
point. But either way, it's hard to be comfortable with Kyler Murray these days. I'm not that 100-yard game if you have a quarterback running for 100 yards, you're expecting at least minimum 20 points out of the guy. Like for
Mhm.
you get 10 points from 100 yards.
Yeah.
And he gets 10.8. That's just, a little bit ridiculous. But we'll move on to the darling of the NFL right now, it seems, a guy that, has captured the hearts of the Washington Commanders faithful. He's on the program for season tickets in 2023, it sounds like, which is pretty wild.
That is crazy.
This is the guy you wanted to talk about, so I'll kick it over to you. What do you think about what's your heat check on Taylor Heineke?
Yeah, my heat check is he's my number one streaming option this week because they have Atlanta. He should absolutely tear that defense up. I'm really excited to see it too because it's his second full week with a full arsenal of weapons because Dotson is back, Robinson's healthy, you got Gibson, you got McLaurin, Logan Thomas, but and Curtis Samuel. He's got all of his weapons. He's got a good matchup to finally go in and kind of expose that. So I'm really excited for him this week. Long-term rest of the season, I don't know. He's got a tougher schedule than most, but the way that, I don't know, from a fantasy perspective, it may be harder to start him as the season continues to go on. But I think if he continues to win, then he's going to continue to be on the field, obviously. And so they're going to figure out a way to make the offense work, I think, with him.
Yeah, and they have been, right? They certainly have been. They're 4-1 right now with him as a starter.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. So, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how there's no way they're playing Carson Wentz with that contract or sorry, the draft pick moving to a third from a second. There's no way they're playing him. There's no way they're paying that second round pick for Carson Wentz when they can pay a third. So they're 100% doing that. But beyond that, they are winning. And they're pushing themselves into potentially, getting into a wild card spot. At the start of the season, we had I think it was predictions type of a thing episode way at the beginning of the season. I was saying the Washington Commanders can compete with the Cowboys. I didn't think they would, beat the Cowboys, nothing like that. I just said that they could compete with the Cowboys. I thought the Eagles would win the division, Cowboys probably slip into a wild card, and the Commanders would come up and kind of compete and do what they're doing. So that looks like what they're doing, and we'll see. I especially see them getting a win against Atlanta. And Taylor Heineke is going to keep playing as long as they're winning, as long as they're playing well, as long as the offense is functioning, then you got to stay with them. So I think, he's going to be there at the very least, right?
You're going to hate this, but selfishly, I want them to bench him for Sam Howell. I just want to see what Howell can do. I love Howell coming out of college. I don't know. I feel like he dropped down people's rankings real quick, and then obviously he dropped in the draft, but I think he's still got it all there. So I want to see Howell get a shot, but
he was my fourth, I believe, after Malik Willis and then Pickett and Ritter. So I don't mind Howell. I wanted to see more out of him as obviously I can't remember everything that I said about the guy, but he's just the comp I had for Sam Howell. You'll love this. Take a wild guess.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield is exactly who I comped to Sam Howell. So, if you want to see what Sam Howell's got, go watch Baker Mayfield throw the football.
Well, you know how I feel about Baker, so
yeah, no, that's kind of how I see it. Well, he's not going to get a shot though while they're winning. Like it's just not going to happen unless the season gets away from them. It's just not going to happen. But let's move on to the last quarterback we have in mind here, Justin Herbert. He's a guy that a lot of people have been down on a little bit. He's people are saying he's losing them their leagues, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of cold, things like that. But let's look into this a little bit. I think he's trending up. A lot of these things weren't exactly his fault. The offensive line, the Chargers, there's something in the water. There's something in the water down there.
Turf, man.
Oh, well, before that, even in San Diego, it was almost worse, right? With the injuries, they always have injuries, bad injuries constantly. And this
Yeah.
year's no different. So it's not all on Justin Herbert's shoulders. I can understand the frustration because he was, third or fourth quarterback drafted consensus in, best ball and a lot of redraft leagues, obviously.
Mhm.
But I think that this team is now going to start to find itself here in the next few weeks. Keenan Allen is back. He practiced fully today. He's
Yep.
back. And that is absolutely huge. Bigger than I'm actually okay if Mike Williams is out, if Keenan Allen is playing. What we saw out of
Yeah.
Josh Palmer last week. DeAndre Carter has been a very pleasant surprise. I liked him coming this year. He's bounced around, played for Washington last year. He's a quality veteran guy. And then, if Gerald Everett can keep it going with Eckler out of the backfield, all that kind of stuff. I think having Keenan Allen back is going to be absolutely massive for this team. I think these next 4 weeks, this team is absolutely going to find itself. Why do I say that? The next 4 opponents for the Chargers
They've got a
at
juicy schedule.
at Arizona, that team doesn't care about playing football anymore, and they especially don't care at home because they barely win there. At Las Vegas, they don't. It's tough to find people that care on that team besides Max Crosby, Devontae, Adams, and Derek Carr always does. Miami at home, Tennessee at home. These next 4 games are really, in my opinion, going to catapult Justin Herbert back to that status of elite. People are going to be talking about him a lot more again, like they should have never stopped. He's at 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions right now. The end of these 4 games, I could see him be pushing 30 touchdowns and still be sub 10 interceptions.
Yeah, I see that
think?
easily. No, you were pulling at my heartstrings in the show sheet on this one, Cody. Because I have a couple shares of Kyler. I love Justin Herbert. He's someone I flip flopped on post draft and once he actually got to start playing. But so I love Justin Herbert, and I'm completely agree with you. He's currently sitting at QB 11. I think with these next 4 games and really even into the fantasy playoffs and fantasy championship, if you get that far, he is going to return on investment here. I could see him easily rising up into the top 5 with the schedule that he's got. And like you said, I think the thing to focus on is going to be, is Keenan Allen or Mike Williams healthy? If yes, Justin Herbert will be fine. If not better than fine for the next few weeks. Because like you said, and like we've seen all year, Palmer is doing a lot more than expected because he was supposed to be wide receiver 3 on this team. So I think to me that means he can easily fill in as the wide receiver 2 on this team if one of those other 2 guys is out. And then if he's the wide receiver 3, that's where you really get to use him to his skill set, which is taking the top off the defense. So I absolutely love this. I think Herbert's going to crush it the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think they're really going to come into their own. Like I said, Keenan Allen coming back is absolutely massive. He's still so habitually underrated. One of the better wide receivers in the entire NFL, in my opinion. He's for me, a top 8 wide receiver. It might not show up in this box score. It might not show up in fantasy stats. So I guess that's a little bit of a different conversation. But Keenan Allen is absolutely one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, entire
He's one of
NFL
the best
for me.
route runners. And
No question.
that
And he
is the
blocks
huge
very
part. Yeah,
well. So again, it's stuff that might not show up in the stat sheet, but it's stuff that absolutely makes him one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL.
for sure.
Let's move on to our first running back here. I want to talk about Joe Mixon a little bit. This is a guy, I've talked about a fair amount. He's a guy that is habitually overrated. If you took out he's right now he's like wide or running back like 6 or something like that. If you took out
I
that,
think he's running back 9. And again, I'm looking at
is he
sleepers.
that doesn't
Yeah.
matter how high he is. I know he's top 10, but if you took out that 50-point game that he had fantasy point wise and just brought it back to his, average, which is like 15, he's sitting at like, 12 spots back from where he's at right now. He's had 100-yard game, 153 yards plus the 58 through the air. His previous high for the season was 82 in week 1. He's averaging 3.8 yards per carry, even with that huge game. He's a career 4.1 yards per carry guy. He's below his career average right now at 4.1, which is really nothing to write home about at all. He's just
No.
habitually kind of overrated. He won't play against Tennessee this week because of concussion last week. He just won't play. We know that. Then he's got KC, Cleveland, at Tampa Bay, at New England, and Buffalo in the finals. Good luck with that. So yeah, what do you think? What do you think? He's just habitually overrated. His numbers are always inflated one way or another. Either he gets a ton of carries and it pushes his yards total up, his yards per carry is down, but people still love him and think, oh, and then before it was, oh, the offensive line is garbage. Offensive line is garbage. That's the problem. That's the problem. Now they have a pretty awesome offensive line, actually, and he's still not producing. He's actually producing worse yards per carry wise, touchdown wise, all that kind of stuff than last year or the year before. So what do you think?
Cody, I'm just going to leave this up to you. I don't have anything to add other than to add on to what you said. His next 6 weeks, including his playoff schedule for fantasy, is absolutely horrible. At best, I think he finishes as an RB2 in those, and you're going to be disappointed with where you likely drafted him in the beginning of the season.
Especially when it matters
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
playoffs. Yeah.
And it is not going to be fun for you as a Joe Mixon owner. Heck,
Yeah.
I might no, I'm not going to go that bold. I would start Samaje Perine if you have him, even when Mixon's healthy, because Samaje at least has the ability, or has been getting used in the passing game, even when Mixon has been in.
Yeah. We'll see how it kind of ends up. But yeah, at Tampa Bay, at New England, and then at home to Buffalo. That's going to really hurt. That's going to really hurt your you get that bug? that's really going to hurt your fantasy playoffs, that's for sure.
I did get the bug.
We'll move on to a guy you wanted to talk about. This is definitely a guy who's hot right now. That's for damn sure. What are you thinking about Tony Pollard here?
Man, he's got to be in your lineup. Matchup doesn't matter to me. Even if Zeke is healthy and playing, the last 4 games he's had at least 53% snap share, and he's just been finding the end zone. He's just got a magnet on himself and the ball with the pylon and the goal line. Like, he's getting in the end zone. Hold on, I have notes. Let's actually read the notes, Shane. That's probably a good idea. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. He's just been scoring touchdowns. He's starting to take over from Zeke, the full Lions share. I won't even say Lions share. They're getting about a 50-50 split for the most part, and he's capitalizing on his opportunity. I will admit, people have been saying it for probably 2 years. He's more explosive than Zeke. And we're seeing that now this year even more consistently than we have in the past, I think, because they're actually switching to him and using him. So I personally get why they've used Zeke in the past. I think he's a better pass blocker, and that's going to matter to coaches and to Dak. But Pollard is more explosive and gives your offense more of a boom than Zeke is at this point.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would ever argue that Pollard is not more explosive than Zeke. Even like staunch Zeke supporters like myself I certainly would agree with that. No questions asked. I think the biggest thing that's benefited Tony Pollard and potentially Zeke even too is the Cowboys have finally, after probably 10 plus years, they have finally found an identity as a team. That's I've seen more so this year than ever from watching football, basically. Since I became a football fan, well, that's not true because Emmitt Smith was with Dallas when I started kind of watching football. But regardless, for like decades, the Cowboys have never really had an identity. Maybe when Tony Romo was in his absolute prime and they were a passing team, but even then, they couldn't put it together as a playoff team and as a championship team, but they finally have an identity now with a super strong defense and a very good above average running game, and then they also have obviously CD Lamb, and Dalton Schultz is a fantastic, again, underrated tight end, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan of Dalton Schultz, but they have an identity. That's a big benefit to a guy like Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Like I said, like last week, Tony Pollard went ham and Zeke had 2
And Zeke
touchdowns.
still got 2 touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah,
I
Zeke had a
like,
great
as
game.
a guy who has admittedly a couple of shares of Zeke and Pollard on the same team, I'm cool with how they were used last week.
Mhm.
And as a Cowboys fan, like, I'm cool with them using them that way. And I say
That's
Cowboys
exactly what
fan
you
loosely.
want.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
like,
exactly what you
Zeke
want.
is the guy that you want to be your bruiser, go get you those goal line touchdowns, and then let Pollard do everything else.
Yeah, especially the passing down work, right? Well,
Yeah.
catching the ball, I should
Yeah.
say. Be more specific, because Zeke is one of the better pass blocking running backs in the NFL. This is one we got to touch on, obviously. Surprise release of Darrell Henderson, which was wild to me when I saw it. I was super shocked. I did not expect
I was
that at all.
shocked.
Especially at this point in the season, it just none of that really made sense, especially with what was going on with Cam Akers. But here we are. It happened. And I have a bit of a confession to make. I'm ready to get hurt by Cam Akers again.
Oh, no.
I'm ready to let Cam Akers break my heart again. I'm ready. I thought about it a
No,
lot,
Cody.
and I'm ready to have him break my heart again. Um,
No.
So he got 14 carries last week, 61 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. That's pretty all right. This week, obviously, they play Kansas City in Kansas City. That's a tough matchup, but the Chiefs are 25th, points against for running back. So there's some potential there that maybe he falls into the end zone and scrapes out a flex where they start sort of a thing. But moving forward, Seattle, Las Vegas, both home games, at Green Bay, Denver, and then the Chargers. That's pretty juicy, actually, as a running back. Their offensive line is in a tough spot, but hopefully it does get better. But I really do think that the flames, the embers are crackling down there for Cam Akers. I think
Phoenix of Cam Akers is coming back.
I think we could see some excitement start to build with Cam Akers, throughout the end of this season here. And then heading into next season, he could be a guy that's, bubbling up kind of higher on people's lists because of how he finishes this season. He's going to be on the roster next year. That's partially what it was. Darrell Henderson, he was not going to be on this roster next year. He's unrestricted free agent. Kyron Williams will still be there. But I think Cam Akers, they want to just, here's the ball. Let's see what you really got. I think that's what they're going to do, especially with most likely Bryce Perkins is going to be starting this week, which is someone that I picked up in extremely deep leagues.
Oh, God.
Extremely deep leagues. Yes, I am hurting at quarterback in these extremely deep leagues. I also own Kyle Trask in both of these leagues. That's how deep they are. So that should tell you a little bit about the depth of the league. But I digress, especially with Bryce Perkins starting this week. They should be handing the ball off quite a bit. Kyron Williams opens the door for him as well. I know that's a guy that you've really loved. So I'll kick it over to you if you want to chat about Kyron Williams a little bit.
Yeah, I love Kyron Williams. I've loved him since the draft process. The 4, 5, 7 or whatever his freaking 40 time was didn't scare me away from him, and it just limited his ceiling for those big breakaway touchdown runs. I just looked back on Sleeper, and the snap percentages lean towards Kyron. He had 55%, Akers had 39%, and Henderson had 6% of the running back snap share. So that all adds up to 100%. This is obviously going to end up being probably a 50-50 split, I think, with Akers and Kyron. For me, I am obviously leaning Kyron, but with Perkins starting this week, it may be Akers if they want to continue to lean on him in the run game. But Williams still has a PPR pass catching side that yields a lower end flex value, but if you're desperate for some points or if you're in a deeper league, I'm perfectly comfortable starting Kyron Williams. And honestly, this week, you've talked me into being willing to start Cam Akers too.
We'll see. I'm not suggesting people actually start Cam Akers unless you absolutely have to. I'm just saying there's potential there that, he doesn't completely poop his pants. But like what I'm saying more after this game is moving forward, I think we're going to see some embers start to crackle and maybe throw a log on that Cam Akers fire. And we'll see if going into next season. you know.
I just need Kyron to keep producing and slowly improving to where my bold take that you guys can find on Roto Heat's YouTube page comes true, which is Kyron Williams will outscore James Cook this year.
We'll see. We'll see about that one. Let's plow through a couple of these because we're running out of time here. But I want to talk
Yeah.
about the Denver Broncos backfield. Obviously, another surprise release. Melvin Gordon's gone. That leaves Latavius Murray and Marlon Mack here. Marlon Mack hasn't recorded a rushing attempt since late last season. So we'll see what he's got. The only thing that might happen here is we might see a Deontay Foreman like return to the ring for Marlon Mack. That's possible. He's only 26 years old. He's a former 1,000-yard receiver, similar to Deontay Foreman, who sat out for a couple years, didn't really do anything, came back, and now he's having a pretty decent career. But in my opinion, what this team needs to do, start looking at some practice squad players that you can poach. Duke Johnson is on the Bills practice roster. This is the guy that I would go after, and this guy was my number, I think, 4 running back this year, maybe 3, 4, I think. Kennedy Brooks is on the Eagles practice roster. That's the guy that I'm going after. He's young. Give him a shot. See what he's got. Maybe he's your running back of the future. They're no stranger to have an undrafted free agent, Philip Lindsay, lead their team in rushing. So give him a shot. See what's up. Tevin Coleman's out there. Tyler Beatty, Tyler Goodson on the Packers.
Did Benjamin ever end up signing somewhere?
Yeah, he's with
Houston, right?
Yeah. So
I
what are
mean,
your thoughts?
I'll keep it short and sweet. I agree with you on maybe going and finding a practice squad guy, but for right now, this is Latavius Murray's backfield. I just don't see Mac making a miraculous comeback for any particular reason. And they cut Gordon because of the fumbles. Like it makes sense. It sucks for Gordon.
Well,
but
actually, supposedly he was blasting tunes in the locker room, and Russell Wilson demanded his release after the last game.
No way.
That's what I heard somewhere on Twitter or something like that. I can't remember. But he was blasting music, laughing, whatever. And Russell Wilson said, "Get this guy out of here," and they obliged. So
wow.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. That's interesting.
Let's move on to a wide receiver I love to hate, and it's pretty unjust, but for some reason I just love to hate Amari Cooper. He had a great game last week. So did my guy DPJ, but this was your guy. So what do you think about Amari Cooper?
Yeah, he is sitting at, and let me make sure.
Wide receiver like 9 or something like that, or 8, 7.
Yeah, wide receiver 10. He has 2. I think the rest of season he's got a decent outlook to maintain that wide receiver 10 status. He has 2 really tough matchups for Watson's first 2 weeks when it comes to wide receiver matchups. But then after that, he has a phenomenal playoff schedule. He's got Baltimore, he's got New Orleans, and he's got Washington. So I think this is a guy that he's obviously a weekly starter. He's had the characterization of being boom or bust, and he's kind of fallen back into that status this year. But I think once Watson is back, he will be more boom than bust for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think he's a wide receiver 1, kind of set and forget at this point. You gotta kind of take the good with the bad, and hopefully you get more good than bad. So
yeah, and I think he will for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
Jacoby's been fine, and Watson's coming back. So
yeah, same with DPJ. That's the guy I was targeting last week to trade for. So both guys I think could be assets for sure. Courtland Sutton, as much as we're poo-pooing on the Broncos here, this is a guy that I think is going to be quality down the stretch. You kind of laid out their remaining schedule, and he's got some juicy matchups. He's quietly putting together a solid season. If Russell Wilson could throw some touchdown passes, he should top 1,000 yards. He only has the 1 touchdown, and that's what's holding him back the most. But he's quietly putting together a good season, like you said. Carolina, Baltimore, KC, Arizona, Rams, KC to wrap up the season. That's actually relatively juicy. And in my opinion, he's pretty much the only guy on this offense that's even remotely comfortable to start on a weekly basis.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I put on my notes for the show sheet, I don't know WTF to do with him. I've got him in my home league. Huh?
He's a flex guy, I think.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. I've got him I've got him in my home league dynasty league. I know this is a redraft show, but he is sitting in one of my flex positions. We've got 3 flex positions, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable starting him as a flex. I don't know if I'd go any higher than that, but I mean, he's sitting on, I think, wide receiver 30. So full touchdowns in the last few games, he can easily rise to territory and probably easily recoup your investment.
Yeah, I got him on one team as well, and he's in my flex spot comfortably. He's been there most of the season, and I don't particularly see him going anywhere with the remaining schedule. Let's wrap it up after this guy. I just want to show this guy some love, man. He hasn't been getting nearly enough love this season. I don't feel like in fantasy and dynasty or sorry, fantasy, circles. I don't think he's been getting enough love. And I just wanted to kind of shout him out. 2 of 10 weeks, he was giving you minimum flex points. Should top 1,000 yards again, and he could push that 10 touchdown, double-digit touchdown mark. And with DK, kind of commanding the other team's top corner, he just eats in the slot as he has his whole career. And it could potentially go up as the season goes on. A nice safety blanket for Geno. And I just want to shout out Tyler Lockett, man. What are your thoughts?
That's with Sutton. He's one of other been super consistent for the most part this year. And I agree with you. Like he's one of those guys who's becoming or has been kind of criminally underrated, probably because of his size and just the kind of every now and again he'll have a boomer bust kind of span, and then but other than that he's relatively consistent. So I love the call.
Super consistent.
Yeah, and love Lockett. So
yeah, he's flex minimum wide receiver 2 potentially type of a guy.
Yeah.
Vegas, Rams, Panthers, 49ers, Chiefs, Jets to wrap up the season. I think he's gonna be minimum in your lineup to end it. But let's get to these comments. I know there's a lot in there. Thanks for hanging out, guys. If you could hit that like button for us, if you're subscribed, amazing. If you're not, hit subscribe for us. But yeah, appreciate you guys sticking around. Let's get to these questions here. Let's go to the top. Yeah, Najee Harris, that's what's up. Did the right a lot of players. What do we got?
First one looks like that one.
Broncos. How do the Broncos take carries away from Javonte Melvin and just try? That's like the big narrative that's kind of getting pushed around right now, and it is an absolute mess. How do you take carries from him? You're saying that Melvin Gordon is good enough to take carries away from Javonte Williams, but he's bad enough that we need to cut him
2 months later
with Latavius Murray, right? That's
so
just a
Anthony,
bad.
Do you want my cop-out answer to this?
Go ahead.
Javonte Williams got hurt.
Oh, for sure. But it's just the thought process there. Like, how could you do that and then cut him 2 months later? Obviously, the injury and the 5 lost fumbles, that's just unacceptable. One at the goal line, the week, last week when he got cut here.
1 week where they both lost them back to back, and it was like, what in the world is going on?
Yeah, the team is an absolute mess. Hackett may get another shot. We'll see.
I doubt it.
Joshua Montgomery, Superflex have Jared Goff, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, and Mike White. Which 2 should I start? Who do the Packers play?
I'm going Rodgers and Ryan.
You kind of have to go with A-Rod in this case, right?
Yeah,
you have to start him.
I want to say the Lions, maybe have the Patriots.
Man, all of these matchups are pretty.
Is that right?
Well, the Lions have the Bills, which is tough, and it's on a Thursday.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm probably like the juiciest matchup is Matt Ryan against the Steelers on Monday.
That's what I'm going with is Ryan and Rodgers.
But do you really want Matt Ryan, the statue that is Matt Ryan, standing there waiting for TJ Watt to rip his head off his shoulders?
No, and I hate Matt Ryan, but the defense is 31st against fantasy quarterbacks. Like,
this is a tough spot, Josh. This is a tough spot, man. If I'm being honest, I'm probably going Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to set that and cross my fingers.
So,
That's what I'm doing. I'm too scared of TJ Watt. Honestly, that's the biggest problem. I'm too scared of TJ Watt to start Matt Ryan, who will just stand there and literally get ripped in half. Alex Highsmith goes low, TJ Watt goes high, he gets ripped in half. Honestly, like that's what makes me just so nervous. And then Cam Hayward, lands on top of his torso. You know what I'm saying? Like that's scary. I'm just too worried about the Steelers, defense just murdering Matt Ryan this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm still going Matt Ryan.
And Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
So definitely Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see if you go Goff or Matt Ryan. But, right now I want to start a prayer circle for Matt Ryan for Monday night. I'm concerned about his safety. I really am. Are you concerned about it? Oh, this is
that was about Fields.
I'm concerned about Matt Ryan, Leone, is what I'm concerned about. Gino or Jimmy G? Jimmy G plays the Saints. Seattle is against Vegas. I would say Jimmy G, but I'm going Gino here because the Raiders defense is just absolute garbage. And the Saints defense is a little bit better, but more. I mean, I guess the Seahawks run the ball too. Yeah, let's just say Gino. Leone agrees.
Yeah.
Brady over Fields this week, right? Yeah. Cleveland. In Cleveland.
I'm going to be contrarian and go Fields.
I'm going Tom Brady. He's been playing better. It is the Browns. They're coming off a bye. Tom Brady off a bye. Godwin and Evans. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's happy. I'm going with Brady here just because Fields is banged up. He might not even play. Fields might not even play. So
I'm going to go Fields just to back up my take from earlier, which is dumb, but that's my logic.
I'm going Brady here. Jason Smart, this guy is in a league of mine. He lives in the city I do. What's up, Jay? He's in Dallas. Him and one of my best friends, they're watching. Shout out to Jordy J and Jason Smart. They're watching the Cowboys game tomorrow. So that should be pretty awesome. Where does Sean Payton go? Will a team trade for him? Saints could sure use the picks. Saints could absolutely use the picks. They're going to have to rebuild completely and rip it all apart. They're up against the cap again. They're going to have to rip everything down, undrafted free agents, rookies, everything. They're going to look bad for a few years, in my opinion. A team will not trade for him, in my opinion, again, because I think that ends after this year, I think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I think he's a free agent after this season. Will he get a job? Where will Sean Payton go? What are your thoughts on this? Just off the top of your head. Everybody's saying Cowboys. He's not going to Carolina. There's no way in the world.
A man can dream, right? Yeah, everyone's saying Cowboys. I'd be shocked if he went to the Cowboys. I really would. Arizona, maybe?
I don't think he goes to Arizona. I don't think he goes to Arizona. They've got
the pieces in Arizona. It would make sense. They need a real leader, someone who's had success in the NFL. I'm making my case for Arizona.
I think it depends on what happens with Dan Quinn and where Dan Quinn goes, because I think Dan Quinn deserves a job, and it's either Arizona or your team, the Carolina Panthers. I think that's the perfect fit. I say Dan Quinn in Carolina. That's where I think he needs to go. I would love
that, honestly.
I think that's a match made in heaven, in my opinion.
Young, Dan Quinn, fast defense with Dan Quinn at the helm. I'll take it. Just get somebody to run the offense.
Yeah. They can worry about that, whenever. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury or something. Who knows? I don't know. But either way, Dan Quinn, I think, to the Carolina Panthers. I do not think Sean Payton goes to Arizona. I think he would. I think the bottom line is he'd wait till the perfect scenario comes up. And that's not in Arizona. That's not in Carolina.
Why not Arizona?
Would you want to coach Kyler Murray?
No.
I would have a hard. I think a lot of coaches would have a hard time with Kyler Murray. There's clearly a situation there between him and Kingsbury, and Kingsbury sucks anyways. I'm not saying that's Kyler's fault.
That's here's my counterpoint. Like, I get what you're saying with Kyler. Like, he is millennial of millennials. It seems like doesn't want to work, doesn't
There's
study
just
for the report.
clearly an issue with his preparation, right?
Yeah, but I think that's where Sean Payton would help. I think Sean Payton is enough of a leader as a coach to, if not get Kyler Murray to prep better, get the rest of the team to a level where not necessarily Kyler like can't bring them down, but Kyler's like, oh shit, if I don't prepare to the level of the rest of the team, then they can't bench him because he's worth too much. But like,
Well,
you
someone
get what I'm
needs
saying
to
though?
hold him accountable,
Yeah, and
you
I
know,
think
and
that's what I'm thinking is like Peyton comes in, gets the rest of the team to act accountable. That then holds Murray to be accountable, and I think Peyton could do it too. I think Peyton's enough of a hard ass to be able to handle someone like Murray.
he probably could. I just don't know if he would go there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I don't really have an answer of where does he go. A team will not trade for him, I don't think. But I don't know where he would go. I think it'd have to be the perfect situation, and I don't particularly see that right now.
yeah,
Unless he loves one of these rookie quarterbacks coming in, then maybe
which is
Carolina.
also possible.
Yeah. So Leone, rest of the season, Heineke or Kyler Murray. I know what you're doing, but it's not that wildly crazy, but it's still Kyler. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, I think it's Kyler.
Um, locked on for
Even though
perfect.
we just kind of shit on him, but whatever.
Yeah, you need new owners, man. This is bad when you get into that sort of thing. That's why you got to make sure everybody pays. If you're in dynasty leagues, make sure they pay in advance, especially if they're trading draft picks, that kind of a thing. That's tough. QB talk. All right, Rumble Ron, not relevant to QB talk, but I'm trying to figure out who to play as my RB2. I have Kamara, Jeff Wilson, Sanders, and Pacheco. I have no idea who to play. I have Jake as my number one. It's Kamara. It's always Kamara. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's just always Kamara. You have to start
Mhm.
your studs. Hashtag start your studs. And if you got to roll with the good with the bad. Like if you're trying to get too cute, the reality is, yeah, Jeff Wilson, fantastic matchup against Houston, you know,
Mhm.
but Jeff Wilson doesn't have the ability to throw up 40
Ooh.
points.
It's definitely Kamara. Yeah, it's definitely Kamara. I could be talked into Miles Sanders. I'm assuming that's Miles Sanders. They have Green
Yeah.
Bay.
Yeah,
Um,
I could be talking to Jeff Wilson too, to be honest, against
yeah,
Houston. Like he could easily go for 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, easily.
yeah.
So, you know, in a vacuum, just taking out name value, which is what we should do anyways. All right, I'll say it then. Gun to my head, Jeff Wilson. Gun to my head, I'm sorry, start Jeff Wilson. I guess what I just said about Kamara is equally, you know, valid for Jeff Wilson, right? He's not start your studs, but it's, you know, he could go for 30 points. And if he has 30 and Kamara has 35 and you're wrong, are you really wrong?
Technically,
So
yes, but that's another conversation for another
you
day.
know you know what I'm
Um,
getting at though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Go Kamara. That's the smart thing to do.
It's just the easy thing to do, but
I'm not touching Pacheco
I'm
this
gonna
week.
go contrarian and say Jeff Wilson. Not if you have these options.
Yeah.
I'm not going
No.
Pacheco. If you have worse options, I'm starting Pacheco in a league.
Yeah.
But I don't have better. I don't have these options.
Yeah.
So there you go. GR Reed in full PPR 12 team league. I'm 9-2. Nice. That's your team. Nice team. I thought you were
He
asking a
agreed with
question
us.
there, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Kamara's playing the Niners. Yeah, easily Wilson. I agree. Wilson's a good spot there. That's who I'm taking. Chat, you don't sick nasty. Do you want us to answer or no? Chat, you'll start an Eagles over Chiefs D this week. Chiefs against the
No.
Saints.
Start
Eagles.
Chiefs have the Rams
Chiefs have the Rams. Yeah. Oh, I thought
with
Niners. Okay. Chiefs against the Rams.
Stafford
I
out.
I'm yeah, it's Chiefs with Stafford. Yeah.
Stafford's out. Their offensive line hadn't been great all year. Yeah, I'm going Chiefs here.
I go with Chiefs D as well. I'm going with the plan on Eagles. I think I look at the
I don't
Chiefs.
hate it, but
I mean, it's defense. That's a difference of what, 4 points most likely.
yeah.
Um,
Next one looks like Sean Davis.
Chats is blowing up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sean Davis. I have Cole Kmet. Should I drop him for Juwan Johnson?
No.
It's a no for me.
Hard, flat, no.
Yeah, that's a no for me. I like Cole Kmet a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So Giovanni Sierra, pick one, PPR, Curtis Samuel, Michael Carter, CPAT, Demarcus Robinson. Marcus Robinson's kind of smoke and mirrors. You know, that's the second game where he kind of blew up this season. I wouldn't rely on that. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Who does Atlanta play again? You said it earlier. Washington.
They've got
Washington's a
Washington.
quality defense. Quality
I'm going Curtis
defense.
Samuel.
I'm going Curtis Samuel, and then in second place would be Michael Carter against a bad Chicago run defense. Plus, Mike White should dump it off a little more to running backs, and that's where Michael Carter is going to excel. But I go Curtis Samuel as well on this one. John Maloli, trade away Deebo Samuel for James Conner. Have DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin as my wide receivers. I only have Dalvin Cook and Cordarrelle as my RBs. You're giving up way too much for James Conner.
Agreed.
Like I'm not trading Deebo for James Conner. That's for sure.
Even with Deebo underperforming to where he was drafted, you can get more off of Deebo for name value alone.
For sure. You could look at even like Aaron Jones off the top of my head. Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I like that. I would do that.
You know, maybe Joe Mixon. No, I wouldn't do that.
Don't do
wouldn't
that.
do that. Josh Jacobs?
I could see it.
Josh Jacobs RB4 right now.
Yeah.
In the league I was looking at earlier today.
Yeah. I could see it. You may have to add on a little bit if the owner's smart and realizes where Deebo and Jacobs are.
Yeah, but like you said, name value.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm certainly not trading Deebo for James Conner. That's for sure. Yeah. I don't know what else. Like, I don't like. You're certainly not doing it for Hopkins, Evans, or Godwin either. But maybe look at splitting up Godwin and Evans.
Yeah.
And then look at an Aaron Jones or Josh Jacobs. Mike Evans for Josh Jacobs.
I could see that.
Something like that. That's what I'd rather do. I'm not doing oh wow, Cesar. Come on, man.
Oh, Cesar.
Trade ETN Pittman for Higgins Kamara. Ooh, that's tight.
Why you gotta do this to me, Cesar?
I do that though. I take the ETN Pittman side.
You do?
Yeah, so no, then don't do that, Cesar. If you're trading ETN and Pittman, I keep ETN and Pittman personally.
Over T. Higgins and Kamara?
Yeah, I do.
I'll agree with you. It's So are you? I guess my question here for you is, do you have ETN over Kamara right now?
Right now,
For
yes.
the rest of the season?
Yes.
Even?
Yes.
And then Pittman and Higgins is kind of a push?
You could call it a push. I do have Higgins over Pittman, but
yeah,
with the juice on the other side, I'll go with the ETN Pittman side, if I'm being honest.
Let me look at one quick thing, and I'll give you a definitive answer on my end.
Well, I cut Henderson. He's on my fantasy team. You're not the only one thinking that, Rico. Man, people were shocked. That was a wild cut. But you find what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm sticking with ETN and Pittman. It's very, very close, but you gotta stick with those.
Sick nasty again, Camel or Olave? I'll pat myself on the back again for like 3 weeks in a row shouting out Paris Campbell.
Olave.
But it's Olave.
Okay.
It is
I
Olave.
was like, oh
No, no, no,
shit,
no.
are we disagreeing here?
I'm just
Um,
victory lapping Paris Campbell, who I've been on for a while now, shouting him out on the show for the past like 2 or 3 weeks. But it's Olave for sure, no
yeah,
question,
I like Olave here.
no question. Jason, Chargers make most sense to me. That would be great. I mean, you got to get rid of Brandon Staley first. I think he's doing. This is for Peyton, by the way, for Sean
Yeah, yeah.
Payton. I think he's doing enough to keep his job there, Brandon Staley. They really like him. It would make lots of sense, and I'm sure they would like to have him, but not at the you know firing of Brandon Staley. I don't think. What do you
I
think
don't
about that?
know. I could
Do you
see it.
think Brandon Staley deserves to be fired? That's where it starts. That's where the conversation starts. Does he
Right
deserve to be
this
fired?
second, no. If they don't make the playoffs, or if they make the playoffs and get blown out in round one, yes.
What if they're 8-9 or 9-8, either one, and they don't make the playoffs because that shouldn't in the AFC?
Then yeah, he deserves to be fired, I think.
You think so? Eh? I think he
Yeah.
keeps his job if he's 9-8. I think he keeps his job. Which, considering what we said about the next 4 games for the Chargers,
Is easily possible. Because what's their
that
record now? They've got a winning record right now, don't they?
yeah, so they should get some wins, reel off some wins. I just don't see
Yeah.
Brandon Staley getting fired. I really, really don't. So
It again, if they do what we think they're gonna do, I'm stumbling here, and rattle off some wins these next 4 weeks, which should put them in the playoffs. I think they would have to get just absolutely smoked in the first round of the playoffs for them to even consider firing Staley. And if that happens, then yes. If they make it through the first round of the playoffs or further, then Staley's staying, in
I
my
think it would
opinion.
take way less than that, or way more than that, I should say. Like if they make the playoffs, not a chance he gets fired. If they make the playoffs, that's it. That's all they need to do. If they're 9-8, I don't think he gets fired. Even if they're 8-9, I don't think he gets fired. I
I
just think
just
they really like Staley. I think they really,
yeah.
really like him. I just don't see it. I'd be shocked. It's possible. Anything's possible. Jim Caldwell got fired after taking the Detroit Lions to a winning season. So, and they haven't had one since. So there you go. Ronnie Daniel, what's up, man? You've been in the chat a lot. Good to see you. What's up, fellas? Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Not for me, but I appreciate it either way. Bills or Commanders defense this week?
Commanders. It's
Probably
Atlanta.
Commanders. Yeah, probably Commanders. Like the Lions aren't god awful at home.
No.
Only at home. Only at home. Short week. Buffalo's kind of been in flux a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm going Commanders here.
Same.
Is Cup droppable yet? If you're a losing team or a middling team, maybe. If
No,
you're
I would hold him on just to be a dick.
I probably would too. Like I think he's available in one league, and I'm probably gonna go pick him up and stash him. I'm a playoff team. I'm gonna make the playoffs. I might just fire my
Yeah.
IR just in case he comes back for week 17.
Exactly.
You know, that's about it. Like, yeah, I probably don't drop him. You just because if he does come back, you know, there's obviously massive value there, right?
Yeah.
B Dubs, my RBs are CMC Fournette, White, probably Rashad White, CPAT. Should I drop CPAT for Mitchell? Thoughts on CPAT rest of season, sitting at 8-3.
I would not drop CPAT for Mitchell.
Personally. I agree with that.
Rest of season, he's probably flex worthy for the most part.
At the end of the day, he's going to get the ball in his hands, right? And Mitchell should
They've
too, but not as
got a
many.
good schedule, actually.
Who?
The
Atlanta?
Falcons. Yeah. Washington, Pittsburgh, buy-in 14, then playoffs for fantasy or New Orleans, Baltimore, and Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, I like CPAT here for sure, just for the sheer volume. He'll get more touches, I think, than Mitchell, right? Especially if it's a PPR, because he's just a get the ball in his hands kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's big, man. He's big. I didn't like.
I didn't realize it until a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago,
I didn't
and
realize it. Yeah, until earlier this season. He's a
it's like,
big boy
oh, yeah,
and so fast. Imagine if he was a running back his whole career.
yeah, right,
Like, I don't know what it would have looked like, but it would have been magic. But I'm not dropping. I think we agree. Yeah, we're not dropping CPAT for Mitchell, unless something happens to CMC. I get where you're getting at with that, um, and to be honest, I don't love what you're doing here. I don't particularly love it, but the only reason I am okay with it is because it's so close to playoffs and you are a playoff team having Christian
yeah,
McCaffrey and Mitchell. This is what he wants to do, right? He wants to lock up that
yeah.
49ers backfield, and he's got the Buccaneers backfield locked up, right? I
Oh, I
don't
didn't even
mind.
realize that, but he does. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do, and I don't mind it because we are so close to the playoffs. So this is the start of the season, week 2, 3. I do not recommend doing this whatsoever. But at this point in the season, I'm okay with it because you're locking down a quality running back room, right?
yeah,
Heading into the playoffs, and you're a playoff team, so it does make sense in this situation. Um, but yeah, maybe find something else on your roster to
yeah,
drop because
yeah.
I can't. I don't think I
Backup
can
tight
justify
end.
that. Yeah, backup quarterback, maybe even depending on
Yeah,
if it's 12 or something. B Dubs, would you drop Tony for OBJ or Jameson Williams? What do you think, Shane?
Tony or OBJ for Jamison Williams.
Yeah,
Um, I might drop OBJ for Jamison.
yeah. I might drop OBJ for Jameson, but Tony is the number one here out of all
Yeah,
these guys because he's healthy enough, right?
healthy-ish. Yeah,
Like OBJ,
OBJ's not even on a team.
dude,
Like
he tore his ACL for the second time. Plus, he completely snapped his leg in half.
in
His
the Super
body's
Bowl.
not going to respond the way that people want it to. I was saying this not at nauseum last year. Like his
Yeah.
body's
No,
just
I'm.
not going to be able to respond at his age
Yeah,
with everything that's happened to his entire below the waist. Like it sucks because OBJ might have been one of the greatest wide receivers in NFL history,
yeah,
potentially. But man, 2 torn ACLs plus he snapped his leg in half.
yeah.
it's that's tough, man. Ronnie Daniels, no problem, man. Anytime. Love having you here. So keep up the comments. We appreciate it. Rest of season. Himal Patel. Rest of season, keep Akers, Miles Sanders, or Damian Harris. Can you only keep one? What's going on here?
Yeah, if it's only keeping one, it's Sanders for me.
I mean, if you can only keep one, period, that's all you can do is keep one. It's Miles Sanders.
If you can keep
Um,
two, I think it's Sanders and Akers.
yeah, I don't know if I could actually do it. I'm ready to have him break my heart, but I don't know if I'm ready for him to break other people's hearts.
Yeah. I mean, but like that backfield is Ramondre's. Oh, he can keep all of them. Then keep all of them. Why the hell not?
Yeah, why are you dropping anyone? Keep them all.
But then have to drop a wide receiver.
They all have value. One wide
Well,
receiver.
who are
Who's
your
the
wide
wide
receivers?
receivers?
Now
Throw the
you
wide
basically answered
receivers
the
out there.
question.
B Dubs, no problem, man. Appreciate the comment. Yeah, who your wide receivers, man? Who you dropping? We'll help you with that. But I don't, if I know who your wide receivers are, maybe you're dropping Akers, Jacoby Myers. I love me some Jacoby Myers personally.
He's a great floor play from a wide receiver standpoint too. I'd prefer
I
him over.
Akers or Harris for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easily.
So I keep Jacoby Myers if that's the only option. Adam Thielen,
Thielen, you're
no,
keeping.
no, keep Adam Thielen. All right. If you have to drop one, you're
You're
not all right.
absolutely not
That's enough.
dropping
You can
Thielen
stop.
Waddle.
If those are your guys, we're good at that. Uh Cam Akers.
Is who you're dropping?
As much as I'm ready to have him break my heart, I
Look,
wouldn't want him to break this guy's heart.
I'm
Hamal
fine with
Patel.
that. I
Hamal.
don't like Akers. I love Kyron Williams. I am perfectly fine cutting him if it means keeping those other players.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
So
if he breaks your heart too, my apologies, but that's what Cam Akers does right now. Yeah, me too, man. Me too. That's gonna be me because I'm trusting him with my heart right now. I'm trusting Cam Akers with my heart right now, and he's gonna shatter it, and then I'm gonna be left picking up the pieces.
Poor bastard.
Anytime. So let's wrap it up there. That's all the questions. Pretty short, quick, and easy on American Thanksgiving in Canada. We call it the Turkey Bowl. The Turkey Bowl tomorrow. So Shane, what's your dessert of choice? Pumpkin pie, apple pie?
Ooh.
You always got to end. You got to end the Thanksgiving show with some dessert shout outs.
With a food question, man, that's really tough. I don't like
How many
traditional.
options you got there tomorrow?
A lot, typically.
All right. Well, which one are you going to?
I'll go with any kind of chocolate pie.
Ooh.
I love.
You're not a pumpkin pie guy?
No, not a pumpkin pie.
Me
I
neither.
could eat
Me
apple
neither.
pie, but it's not like my preference. So yeah, I'll go any kind of chocolate pie.
Lemon meringue, my jam.
That's your jam? Okay.
There's some
You and
lemon meringue.
my cousin would get along well.
Like it tangy, But let's wrap it up. Great show.
Cool.
Appreciate everybody in the chat. Thanks for coming out. We'll be
Absolutely.
back next week. Next week should be a good one. Bye weeks are back. Bye Mageddon? No, Bye Mageddon's week 14, right before
I think
playoffs. So that's
13
good.
and 14 have potentially 6 teams.
No. Just the one we already did, week 9 or whatever it was, and then week 14. Only 4 next week.
Okay.
But we'll be back. Not sure what our topic's going to be. We're getting slim pickings on our topics. We can't talk about trades anymore. Now trade deadlines are past, but we'll come up with something. Go ahead and join the Discord in the top corner there above Shane's head. Hit us up on Twitter. We got our Twitter handles right down here. Hit that like button as well. Roto Heat's killing it right now. We're over 1 million views comfortably.
Yeah, we are.
We'll be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. The Dynasty show is on Tuesdays at
8 Eastern.
8 Eastern. The Boomer Bus show Sunday morning before lock. That's a good one to join the guys. Rick and Bryce and usually Sully are there. This show will turn into a best ball show at the end of the season, and then into the off season, I'll have some guys. Shane will probably join me. Do some drafts if you want to draft along with me for best ball. Shane, what do you got for the piece before we go?
Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy yourselves. Drink responsibly if that's what you do. And have a good night.
Eat all the food, drink all the booze, but don't drink and drive. Have fun. Happy Thanksgiving to all my American friends out there. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours, Shane. And
Thanks,
we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.